Welcome to Dependable Flame, where we explore vintage petrol lighters, ashtrays, tobacciana, and other useful mechanisms. Make yourself at home. Today we are going to continue our discussion on Crackle World War II era lighters. Collector asked me over the weekend about other brand of World War II era Crackle lighters that I might have. This is all I could come up with at the moment, and both of these are very damaged. The blue lighter exhibits many characteristics of a Crackle or World War II era lighter, but I don't believe it is actually a Crackle or wartime lighter. We are also going to follow up on the Crackle eBay auctions that we looked at last week. There are two of them, and they are both been bid up there pretty high now, way out of my price range, which I knew from the beginning, which is one reason why I was willing to share them here on the channel. We're also going to take a moment and get the blue lighter fired up. The darker colored lighter was featured in a previous video, and I had just shown it for educational purposes, hadn't done anything to it. But this flint tube was clear, so I thought that I would go ahead and put a flint in it, fire it up, and see how it behaves. First, we will look at the nicer of the two black Crackles that the eBay seller Fife Creek Antiques has currently up for sale. This one has a 3-barrel hinge that you can clearly see in the listing. It still has the vast majority of its paint, looks like save a little bit from the right side of that hinge. The box is taped up. You can see the oxidation to the insert, and also that the chimney is 14 holes, 7 on each side. We go down here and hit on the seller's other items and take a look at the other black Crackle that it has for sale. The one we were just looking at had been bid up to $415. This second example with the much smoother paint is currently sitting there at $228, $228.50 to be exact. And it has a very dirty insert, very oxidized. Looks like it is a chrome plated insert. I can't see exactly what that hinge was, whether it is a 3 or 4 barrel. Of the 3 that I have owned, 2 have been 3 barrel and 1 was 4 barrel. You can see how slick that paint is, and also that insert appears to be chrome plated and also very oxidized down in the wadding. There's a lot of corrosion and nastiness going on down there for sure. This box seems to be in a little bit better condition as well. So the lighter, not quite as good a condition, and definitely if you were wanting to use it, you would have a mess to clean up inside that insert. But the box is in better shape, so a little bit of trade-off here and there. This other listing here got my attention because of the conversation that I had with Collector over the weekend here in the comments section. This is a Park, a green Crackle Park World War II era lighter. Now, I don't know exactly how many of these were actually service lighters, how many of them were sold, bought in exchanges in military bases around the globe, but still a very cool find, a vintage or historic piece of memorabilia that is, like you can see this one, it's still brand new. Well, not brand new, but really close to it. This next listing is a really cool one as well, I thought, because at first it kind of reminded me of a Park lighter because of the way the hinge has been affixed or reaffixed, I think is more likely. The seller, Articles of Commerce for You, describes this hinge repair as a small brass disc applied just above the hinge and seems to act as a stop for the lid when it's opened. They also make note of the scrawl-like EL letters on the lid of the lighter. It does have a good deal of its paint, Not the worst, survival of a black Crackle paint job that I have ever seen. And that little knob really gives it kind of a cool look that is very similar to the Park, and that many of those had the hinges attached with rivets. You can see the wadding there in the old insert, the oxidation as we spoke of with the other one. These inserts are always a dull, powdery look, and that's if they're not worse by corrosion, age, or wear, or maybe even in many cases contamination. But in this case, this is a good one to keep an eye on, because that particular listing is started very low, and as I record this is still under $50. Definitely one that somebody could steal. So we're going to get back here to the repair, or there wasn't much repair. That's why I decided to go ahead and do it. Go ahead and drop a flint into this unmarked, sort of marble-like blue paint lighter that I pulled out to go along with what I believe was a black or brown Crackle of some sort. The other one is very similar to a Park. I believe this one is more similar to Neff or Berkeley, in that that insert seems to be made out of a lead type material. I've said it many times, I'm not a metals expert, but anybody with a pair of eyes or hands to feel, or sometimes even a nose to smell, can tell a difference in some of these metals. The metal that this particular insert is made out of has more of a wet look, a wet sort of lubricant feel to it. I don't know any other way to explain it. We'll go ahead and get it filled up with fuel, which it doesn't look like it had much wadding in it. This particular lighter, also, I believe that that blue case is made out of aluminum. It is very light. So I think it may be more likely that this lighter came from the era right after World War II. We'll go ahead and spread this wick out, bloom it out at top a little bit, and get it in position there where we want it. And it doesn't just set the world on fire, but I think it would manage to accomplish that with your cigarette. That hinge stop or hinge spring is broke, so there is no keeping the lid closed, or it's just flopping there, which you can see happens as I was trying to light it. So I realized I would have to hold it to keep it from flipping up there and inadvertently putting out the lighter as I was trying to demonstrate. But that's all it took for this one. The lighter somewhere in the neighborhood of 70, well, I guess now 75, 80 years old, that just needed a new flint dropped down in there, and even with that dirty old wick, it still will light right up. This other, what I believe was a Crackle lighter, it really reminds me of the Park. I don't think it was. Maybe a Storm King, that has been brought up. I haven't seen a Storm King of this age. But there are no markings as far as the maker. There were some markings as far as flint instruction on one side or the other of what appears to be a steel insert, I believe, that employs the same type of spring that the Park, Flip Top, Storm King, Park Industries, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Springfield, Illinois, all those employed. This one employed the kind of spring that was self-contained within the case, so that it was not dependent upon that insert for it to stay closed. Maybe the pressure of the insert being in there, but I don't even think so. It had rivets holding it on, where the older, or what I believe to be the Crackle lighter had welded hinge or welded spots there to attach that hinge. Both very cool, both pieces of history, no provenance for either one, and no real claim either. Just old relics that are fun to talk about, and people do collect, as collector pointed out to me yesterday. So we do have a serviceable working lighter, if it is one that we would have to be careful with the lid just flopping around. Also, let's keep an eye on those other Crackle auctions. Until next time.